Hello everybody, welcome back to Retro Computing Ranch. On the last episode of this Old Kaypro, we swapped out the aftermarket Advent ROM, Turbo ROM, to the stock ROM so that we could boot from one of the standard CPM 2.2 images on our Gotek, with the goal of being able to get files off of all of the physical floppies that I've got here and get them stored onto images so I don't have to worry about the media going bad. Off camera, I was doing some testing, and I discovered that when I would try to access the B drive, it wouldn't do it successfully. It was trying to access A and B at the same time, and eventually CPM would either error out or lock up entirely. So I asked some questions online in the KPro computer users group on Facebook, and Richard Waters supplied me some documentation to help me get my drive jumpering correct. I went through that process, and it worked well. I'm able to access both drives now, but when I fired the system back up, I discovered that the display was rolling, almost like I had lost vertical sync. And so I downloaded the service manual and started looking through it, and what I discovered is that the vertical and horizontal sync signals come through this J1 connector from the logic board down to the display driver board. So when I looked at it, I discovered that one of the pins was broken off. I did that when I was taking the connector off, apparently. And so now we get to fix that. So we're going to pull the logic board, do some desoldering, solder a little bit of replacement header in there, get that connection back to good shape. Also, at the same time, one side of the reset switch came loose. So we're going to fix that as well. Once that's done, we'll fire the machine up, make sure that we can copy files from one floppy to the Gotek, and then from there, I think I've decided what I'm going to do is I do have a grease weasel on the way. That should be here sometime next week, hopefully on Monday. So I'm going to back up all of the disks first with the grease weasel to make sure I have raw flux transition images. Then I will actually go through and do the entire process again, take a look at each floppy on the KPro and see what it looks like here. And then after that, I'm not sure where we're going to go, but we're going to have some fun getting there, and we'll do some cool mods and see what we can find software-wise on these floppies. Of course, if there's anything personal, I'm not going to show that, but hopefully we can find some cool applications on here. So let's go ahead and dive in. Thanks for sticking around, and let's get started. Alright, let's go ahead and get started here. So, the first thing that we're going to do, of course, is we're going to remove power. So, we're pulling our power cord there. And then, I'll remove the power connector from the logic board. I'm going to pull the connection here on the J10. Now, the way that these are set is there's labeling on this DuPont connector, and it faces towards the left side of the machine if you're looking at it from the front. So we'll just remember that for when we get everything back together. Now we're going to need a Phillips screwdriver to take some screws out. And you know what? I will go ahead and remove the floppy cable, just to make handling the board easier. Now, the red stripe is towards the front of the machine. So we're going to make sure we set all of our screws aside so we can return them to where they go. And there's one more in the back. Now, one thing you'll want to be careful of course, there shouldn't be any power in the logic board, but the video display board could still have some serious voltage on it. So we'll want to be careful when we're in that area. Now we've got those Phillips screws out. We're also going to need to take the standoffs for the I/O connectors off. And we'll set those aside as well. feel like the entire machine is moving. So there's 4 of these, and then there'll be another 2 small screws on either side of the parallel port connector. So we'll make sure we get those as well. Switch back to our Phillips here. As usual, it would be easier if I was on the correct side of the machine, but we'll get there in due time. There we go. There's one of them. So what I do have is my vacuum desoldering rig. I'll get that out. And that's what we'll use to desolder those connectors. Or that, what is it called again? The J1 header. Alright, so we're going to do a double check to make sure we got everything disconnected. We do. So we'll lift the board in the front and then rotate it up and out of the chassis. Oh, I did not disconnect my keyboard. So we're just going to push that right back through. Alright, let me move the main chassis out of the way. We'll set up to do some work on the logic board here. Fortunately, everything is pretty rugged on these KPros, being that Nonlinear Systems made test equipment. They were still kind of building things along that line. That's why their housings are built so well, is because they kind of built them in a test equipment way. Okay, we're back. So, on the KPro logic board, it has a copper shield on the back held on by 2 screws. So we're going to go ahead and pull those 2 screws so we can get that off. These screws are different, so I'll need to keep track of which one is which. There we go. I wonder if those that are intentionally different? Surely they would be. Okay, regardless. Well, we have a little bodge work here on the back. Interesting. Where does that go? Huh. Looks factory. The bodge wires are glued down. So, I would imagine that that was intended to be that way. Alright. So where we're going to be working at is the J1 header, which is right here. And header wire. I have some header material here. Let me dig that out. Let me get some flux and some solder. Alright, let's get some flux put on this. A little bit, a lot, something. Okay, our iron seems to be ready. Alright. Hopefully we won't need a whole lot of other help here on this, in the sense of braid or a heat gun or anything like that. Let's see. Yeah, those are still roasty toasty. They all seem to be rocking as I would expect them to. But I don't want to run the risk of damaging a trace. And I would imagine that this is a multi-layer board because I don't see traces on it. All right. There we go. That got it. Let's see here. Everything looks clean. Other than the flux I just got on my fingers. Alright. Let's break off a 4-piece of this. And we'll put it back through. I guess I should probably do that on camera. I know one of these is going to need to be snipped off, but we'll get there in a moment. Alright, let me power that down and set up the soldering iron. I'll be right back. Okay, got everything set up here. Iron is warming up. My reliable old Weller TC200 series iron. So I'm just going to apply some more flux here, so that we make sure we get some reasonable flow out. And let me grab my loop. All right. We're not 100%, but we're getting close. All right. So, once we get this header reinstalled and I get everything set back up with the old main chassis in here, what we'll do is we'll fix that broken wire that goes to the reset switch, and then we'll get everything put back together and we'll do some testing. I think I just heard the iron cycle. Yeah, I think it's up to temp. Okay, let's grab some solder. See if I can do this without completely blocking it. There we are. Now, are we seated all the way? We weren't, but we are now. Woo! That's hot. Okay. So one's tacked, and now we can work our way across the rest of them with a little solder smoke. I'm sure I'm blocking this. It is what it is, unfortunately. Okay, let's clean our tip. And then, so I have two options. I can use the loop here, or I could do the other usual trick. I used to use this one a lot when my eyes were bad, when I was blind in one eye and almost blind in the other. Just set up and zoom in real tight to see what I can see. And that, if I can get it to focus, that looks correct to me. Let me snap a picture here. Alright. And then zoom in. It's looking pretty good. One is a little over soldered. Let's go ahead and flow that out just a little more. And of course, remember, if it smells like chicken, you're doing it wrong. Okay, I've reflowed all of those, so let's check again. Now there's a lot of flux, but they all look good. Of course, the way that we're going to tell is to actually put it back in the machine and see if it actually does the job. I will have to run back next door and get some nippers so I can nip that connection that does not need to be there. You know, I almost forgot, we need to put this shield back on. So the way that we had it is the long narrow screw goes into the hole that's closest to the modem jack. And after I took it apart, I realized that the reason it was the way it was is because there's a bracket here that holds the screw that attaches to the back of the case. So that's why it had that larger screw in it. Now, what you want to do is make sure that that bracket faces towards the back of the board so it can catch the screw coming in from the back of the chassis. Go ahead and tighten that down nicely. Alright. Now let's go ahead and bring the main chassis back. So I was thinking about how to do this, whether to solder it in place or to do something different. And I think what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the reset switch out of the back of the machine, like so. And the reason I'm doing that is I don't want to damage it with my rework here. Yeah, so it looks like what happened is that the wire itself broke, which is to be expected. That happens. I think what I'm going to do is remove this zip tie so that I wish I had my nippers with me. Remove this zip tie. So that we can get these wires out and have a little bit more slack here. There we go. Oh, and the other wire just broke as well. So that's to be expected. Okay. I am going to need those nippers. So let me go get those and I will be right back to finish this up. Went across the street, well, next door, and I couldn't find the side cutters that I wanted, but I found my desoldering braid and a few other things. So let's get to it here. See if I can strip this wire back just a little bit. Yes, I'm using a torch. It is what it is. Okay, that one's good. Probably did that all off camera. Alright. And then we'll get the other one. Make sure you do this in a well-ventilated area. While I'm in the RV, I have the air conditioning unit off and the roof vents open and some natural circulation going here. I would have the air conditioner going. It's still in the 80s, even though it's at night, but the air conditioner is just way too noisy. Alright, now, let me take a look at this and see how we want to clear these holes. Maybe some desoldering braid. Now here is how I do desoldering with braid. I'm going to trim back the used braid, of course, and then I flux the braid just a little bit because that helps pull the solder up into the braid. It smokes a little bit, but it sure does work well. Now, let's see if I can do this without burning my fingers. Yeah, it's pulling. I don't want to melt the switch either. Oh, that's hot. Alright. That didn't really make much of a difference. Let's try it with my desoldering station here. Oh, that worked fairly well. I don't want to burn my tablecloth either, even though it's just one of those cheap, like, I don't know, $5 tablecloths. It's plastic. The original covering for this table in this RV started to crack and then just peeled up entirely. They surely don't make them very well. That's a definite. Those holes are almost clear. Alright, let's see here. That needs just a little drag across. It has just a little bit of wire stuck in it. And I know that y'all can't see it. This is what I'm doing. Just basically, I've got the holes cleared with the vacuum, and then I just drag across to pull any loose wires out. Now, also what I need to do, there's a big clump of wire between the two terminals, and we don't want the reset to be shorted all the time, so we need to make sure we don't have that going on. Alright, so now we can, and it's a reset circuit. It's momentary, and it just shorts the two wires together, so it shouldn't matter which one goes to which side. What I am going to do is wrap the wire lightly around the terminal. There we go. And then we'll insert this on the other side, like threading the head of a needle. There we go. We're through, and we're going to wrap around. So then what I'll do is I'll come in with my pliers and just make sure that that's nicely flattened, and then we'll come in with our soldering iron and some solder. Let's get that out of the way. The other thing I like to do is I like to put a little bit of flux in my soldering sponge. and it cleans the tip really, really well. It smokes a little bit, but you're soldering. It's going to smoke anyway. Alright, now, let's see if I can do this when I'm not right up on top of it, right? Yep, that one's soldered. And then let's get this one. Alright, clean the tip. Check the switch. It's looking good. Alright, let's reinstall it and then we will get everything put back together and do some testing. I think that sounds like a fine idea. Okay. Let me set everything up. I'll be right back. Okay. We've got things kind of set back up here. So I'm going to take the logic board and put it back into the case. So you want to make sure you've got that wiring harness here, in there. Your ears on the parallel port, fold them in so they go through the hole. And then you'll lower it down. You make sure you have that up high enough where you can get to it, and that up where you can get to it. Now, one thing you'll want to make sure is to lift the board in the back so that the keyboard jack and the modem jack slip into their square holes. Once you have that, you can get the front screws in. Just have to catch it here. And of course things shift around a little bit, so you may have to kind of wrangle things back into place. That's fine. Let's see here. So we're just going to get that tightened down, mostly. Both of the screws in the front. Of course, make sure to try to keep away from the high voltage section and the tube. Okay. We'll move on to the screw in the back. Just wrangle that so we catch it. Now, we need to make sure that we've got the board lifted and into place, and then we can finish tightening things up. Now we will start putting the standoffs back in. We just want to get a couple in there so we can kind of hold things together. Go. And we're just going to get these finger tight for now, and then we'll come back with tooling and make sure they're tightened up. Alright, come on. There we go. We're making some progress now. Is that tightening up at all? Yes, it is. Okay, great. Okay. Now that we got that, we can come back with a driver and tighten up these standoff connections here. Okay, we got that. Now we can start reattaching things to the board carefully. And I've already pulled the broken pin and I've snapped off the key pin here. We're going to make sure we get that there. That was the J1 connection. We're going to make sure we get the J10 connection as well. Moving the whole table. Alright. We're going to connect our power connection here. And we're going to reconnect floppy, making sure that we're catching everything correctly, that we're not off by a pin on either side. Okay. Reset switch is looking good. Okay. I think we're in a good place. So let me set tools aside, get power cables set up, and change camera position. And we will do some testing. Alright, we've got everything kind of set up. The last thing to do, make sure our power switch is off, connect our power cable, and hopefully nothing smokes here when I turn it on. Flash floppy came up. Let's see if we get video. Should warm up here momentarily. Yes, we did get video. Okay, great. Let's do a DIR on our A drive. We did get that, and I have a disk here that's labeled disk number 1 for 1984 KPro DSDD, and it has a file listing on it. So we're going to put that in our B drive, and we will tell the KPro that we want to switch to B. Drive is active. CPM says we switch to B. Let's do a directory listing. And there we go. We did get a directory listing. So that is wonderful. Now, let's see if I can switch back to A. And do another directory listing. Perfect. So it looks like we kind of have things working here. We've corrected the original issue that I started working on, and we also corrected the two things that I broke while I was trying to correct the original issue. I call that good progress. Give me a couple of minutes here. Let me see if I can find something interesting to take a look at, and then we'll see if we can pull something up here on the KPro. Okay, we're back. Did some digging, and I found a Microsoft Basic disk. And I have a cold, by the way, so I'm still a little off, but I'm here. So let's see what we've got. We're going to load in Basic. Alright. So we're going to set X to the value. We're going to print X. We're going to change the value of X and going to go back to line 20. Let's list our program to make sure it got entered. It did. Let's run the program. Alright. Let's see how long it takes to overflow. Shouldn't take long. Oh, yep, we're already in overflow. Okay, Control C to break. Now the question is, how do you get out of MBasic? I haven't used MBasic in forever. No. Well, not sure. I know reset will do it. Okay. Back to the B drive. Pull a directory listing. So, what all do we have here? I wonder how we call a program. Is that OBasic that's on here? I don't know what any of this stuff does. Basic Ref 4.5 CPM version. Still not what I'm wanting. I got started in computers after the end of the CPM era. I remember the DOS era. So I guess the question is, can we call BASIC and then tell it to load one of these BASIC files? Does that work? I mean, that was the whole point here, right? Was to... Oh. Oh, yeah. That does load right up. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. The mission to seek new life and new civilizations to boldly go where no man has gone before. Do you need instructions? Sure. In control of the Starship Enterprise. Rid the galaxy of Klingons. 64 quadrants. 64 sectors in a quadrant. 8 by 8. Map of the galaxy. Okay. Question marks represent unexplored quadrants. The 3-digit numbers encode information about quadrants. The first digit tells you how many Klingons are in the quadrant. The second, how many friendly bases. The third, how many stars. Hit return to continue. Okay. When you are in a quadrant, it will be displayed as the Klingons are represented by K, the stars by star, your ship by an E, bases by B, and empty structures by a dot. Okay. In your pursuit of Klingons, you will have a large number of units of energy. These can be used to move the ship, to defend the ship, or to fire at Klingons. In executing any of the aforementioned functions, energy is expended. If you ever run out of energy, you will be immobile and defenseless. A summary of commands follows. Warp activated by entering a 1 in response to the command. Warp moves the starship. Upon entering a command, you will be asked for a direction of travel. 0 to 360 degrees. 0 is right. 90 is up. And the warp speed. Short range scan activated by a 2 displays the local quadrant. Okay. That is a lot of instructions. And I would love to play this game, but let's do a little bit more digging and see what we find. So, in addition to Star Trek, we have Chase, Trade, Horse, Blackjack, Wump, Rocket, Taxman, and Bio. Huh. And then also for comm programs, we have Ketchum and Ladder and Aliens. Alright. Let's try Aliens. Wait a few seconds and type a carriage return. Alien invasion in progress. Okay, so that's the instructions. Okay. Oh, hey. That's taking some getting used to. Haven't played any vintage games like this in quite a while. I mean, if this was like Quake 2 or Half-Life or something like that, then yeah. Oh man, okay. That's pretty cool. Alright, let's jump out of that. I think that's going to be enough for today. I don't want to mess with any more of my physical floppies until I get the grease whistle here and I make raw flux transition backups of everything, and then I know that I've got all the data secure, and then after that we can start messing around with things. So that's going to be it for today. Thanks for hanging out. Stay until the end. I had a lot of fun today. I hope you did too. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, share, and subscribe so that you can come back next time when we have another episode. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.